We might kick off, Leslie, if you want to start recording. And I'll get rid of music. Okay, so welcome everyone for another Connect and Share on a Friday morning. Today is the 14th of May and episode number 49, and today we bring you some content on grants and some updates across the whole sector and across the state and territory in what's happening in field and beyond. So before we get started though, I want to thank all of the Aboriginal people that have looked after the land that we work on for over 60,000 years, and pay my respects to all Aboriginal peoples, past, present and emerging, in which we work with to educate people on the history of our land. Budget, my goodness, what a week. So we've had budget week, as we know. Few quick snapshots around the budget. So first of all, I think we all would agree it's very focused on domestic and recovery from COVID. So there's a lot in there about families and childcares, community services. And the most surprising, I think, thankful from our sense, is the 4.7 billion that's going to be put into the skills package to look at the job trainer fund, and what that will do for us is help us look at apprenticeships and traineeships for this sector and give us that ability to look a lot more into that as a solution to our needs right now. A new agency, which you would have heard about, to support local communities after large-scale natural events is being formed. And the agency will also provide advice to government on those mitigation strategies for those disasters. So hopefully that's going to look like a consolidated approach in working with all industry. And yeah, that's certainly a great step forward. The $256.5 million over 4 years for the Building Better Regions funds. This has been a fund that a lot of our regions have used for some great initiatives. So the fact that this is continuing is very positive from my sense, and you can see a lot of the outcomes of that in the early days of it starting, really paying some great results for the communities in which we work. The unfortunate part is that we saw the borders are estimated to remain closed until mid-22, and we know that that's detrimental for us from our visa holder perspective, but also just tourists in general. So what we're doing, we're continuing to work with the government in trying to work through some options. We were very pleased about the releasing of the restrictions of visa holders that was announced last week, and I know certainly some of our operators will be utilising that very much. But we've really got to try to get our visa holders, our skilled workers for our sector, back into the country, and we'll continue to work with the government on that. So some quick updates on everything else. We've got the Climate Change Subcommittee applications now open. So if you are committed to climate change, or you're wanting to get more involved in some actions for the outdoor industry around climate change, this is the committee for you. So the board announced the formation of the committee at the last meeting, and we're now calling for nominations, which close at the end of next week. So if you're interested in being part of that subcommittee, I urge you to jump on and certainly nominate yourself for that. The Outdoor Education Australia Awards are now open. So for the New South Wales and ACT nominations, it comes through to us through our process of evaluating, and they close on the 19th of June. So make sure you get your submissions in. You can nominate yourself or you can nominate someone else. And there's 4 different categories in which you can nominate. So you can jump onto the website there and put your nominations forward, but make sure you get it in before the 19th of June. The membership survey is still open, and all members will receive a nice little package in the mail very soon, which includes our printed strategic plan and some must-knows for the year ahead. So you'll be receiving that very soon. And I was lucky enough to be at the PLA conference yesterday in Coffs Harbour, only for the day, unfortunately. There was some great conversations, and I wish I was there for a lot more, but Yeah, Outdoors New South Wales and ACT presented on the economy of the outdoors, yeah, great turnout and great to see everyone back on a face-to-face event again. And Nature Play was very well represented, so well done to Christian and to all the people that were really advocating for a lot more outdoor spaces to be utilised for health and well-being. And remind that we've got the severe weather guidance note on the website now. So if you are doing activities in the outdoors, we have a great tool thanks to our Risk Management Incident Response Committee. They have pulled together the severe weather guidance note for your use. This will also be available on the OCA website and is just an update for everyone in the sector to make sure they're looking at the things they need to when considering weather. And we have Nicole with us, who I'd want to call on her to give us a bit of an update, because there's some exciting next steps coming out of the project that we've been talking to you about. And thanks to all those who completed the survey, they had an amazing result. So Nicole, I might hand over to you, and if you give a bit of an update on where you're up to.
Sure thing. Laurie, can I take over the screen and present so that you're up?
Absolutely. Go for your life.
Okay. Okay. Now, here we go. Yes. Now, just bear with me. Sorry, guys.
Okay. It's coming now. There you go.
Perfect. Okay. Nope, that's not what I want. Now, are you seeing this?
Yes, you just present it up and we should see it.
Yep. Fab.
Beautiful. Well done.
Okay, great. All right. Thanks for having me on again, Laurie. We just wanted to pop on and give you an update on some of the initial results from the survey we ran. So thanks to everybody who did participate and fill that out for us. Just as a step back for anybody who's not been following along, we're working, Take 3 for the C is working with the New South Wales tourism industry through Outdoors New South Wales and ACT and National Parks and Wildlife Services to partner and find solutions for waste and litter issues across the state. So our first step with that project was to survey the tourism industry, which I'll take you through some results. We've had some awesome feedback. We got over 100 survey responses, which was really, really helpful. And from here, we're going to identify 3 locations within New South Wales to work, hold some stakeholder workshops and work directly with operators. And then we're going to share our findings from those workshops and develop a toolkit, which we'll make available to everybody through Laurie and through National Parks and Wildlife Services. So that's the first wave project in a nutshell. So I'll get on to the survey results, I think. Okay, so we had more than 100 survey responses through the survey. So 60 complete, which is awesome, and 47 partial. The 47 partial still had some excellent feedback. We got a lot of anecdotal feedback from people, so they didn't. Some operators didn't want to go through and give us their contact details, which is fair enough. So if that was you, you're registered as partial, but still very valuable. This is the breakdown of operators who filled in the survey. So you can see 3/4 of the responses were from tour operators. We also had some from accommodation, attractions and theme parks, information services, and inbound tourism operators and wholesalers. Okay, so 83% of respondents to the survey think that the tourism industry does have a litter problem. So that says to us what we're doing is, going to be helpful, hopefully. So hopefully together we can come up with some good solutions to fix that litter problem. When it comes to where you're seeing litter, most people, half of the respondents saw litter happening during peak periods. So that's during weekends or holidays or when the lockdown ends, for example. 30% see litter happening in certain areas of the operation that they're working in, so peak areas for different reasons, and then there's a bunch of other reasons. Okay, so we're interested in finding out how COVID-19 has impacted litter loads, and the results there kind of confirm what we expected, that in some areas there'd be more litter, in some areas there'd be less litter, in some there'd be about the same. So depending on whether your area did get a lot of international tourists, you're probably going to see a lot less litter. But then if you're somewhere like the Central Coast or Long Jetty, for example, where lots of Sydney-siders come up for the weekend because they can't go anywhere else, you're going to see more litter. So that kind of confirmed what we expected to see. Most common types of litter, not surprisingly, plastic bottles, food wrappers and packaging. So still lots of consumables that are being disposed of in not quite the right way. Right, so we tested, we asked rather, why you think people litter. So this was an open-ended field. You could tick as many as you liked. The main reason you thought people littered was apathy, followed by it's someone else's problem or I can't find a bin. So there's an infrastructure sort of push there, so there's not enough bins around, combined with apathy or it's not my problem, leads to issues. There's also perception that there's a lack of pride in the local area. And this is great to see. 85% of respondents say they're already talking to their customers about litter prevention and reduction, which is awesome. So that was really encouraging to hear. So I guess what we're going to do is hear how you're doing that through our workshops. We'd love to learn more about what that looks like and what the response is and what we can pick up and share. And then think at the edges, what more can we do? So next steps for the project, we're in the process of confirming the 3 locations within the state that we're going to really narrow in on. Once we've confirmed those, we're going to hold regional workshops with operators. So there's an opportunity for anyone to come along to those workshops. We'll work quite closely with 1 or 2 operators for the data gathering part of the project, but where the workshops are open to as many people as we can get along. So keep an ear out for news from Laurie. From those workshops, we're going to develop more tools for the tourism industry toolkit. So we want to hear what are you doing, what's working, what's not working, what do you think might work, what can we test, and we'll develop a suite of resources, and then we'll share that toolkit through Outdoors New South Wales and ACT, and through National Parks and Wildlife Services in New South Wales. So that was it from me. Our contact details are up on the screen if you'd like to reach out or get in contact with Laurie, and she can put you in contact with us.
That's great.
Any
Thanks.
questions? No worries.
Those results are really pleasing, I've got to say. That's really great to see.
Yeah. So thanks to everybody for participating.
Yeah, no worries. Any questions from anyone in relation to that? You can put in the chat if you like. If we can answer it via chat, or if you want to speak up, please do so. Otherwise, we'll keep going. But you're welcome to stay, Nicole, or if you have to dash off, thanks again for being with us.
I might pop off, so thank you.
No worries. Take care.
Thanks.
Okay, great, guys. So we'll keep going. A couple of quick reminders before we get onto our main presentation for today. And the ACARA curriculum review is still open. Don't forget, it's still open till July. It's really important that we speak up when it comes to important issues like this and make sure that it includes what we need it to include. If you're working with schools, encourage you to certainly say your piece and make sure that it's heard in this process. Connect and Share's coming up, so exciting one next week. Traineeships. With the announcement of the budget, this is even more important now. So if you are short-staffed, how can we get into this trainee market a lot easier so that it's not a burden on the business, but an outcome for the business? So on the 21st of May, it's all about traineeships, and we're going to have some special guest speakers who are very skilled in this area coming to you on that one. We're going to have a snapshot of Outdoors in Borneo on the 28th of May for something a little bit different. And then I'll give you a bit of an update and summary of the OCA summit that would have occurred the week after. And I'll give you the summary on the 4th of June. So there's the next three coming up for you. The other events, there's an event coming up in Port Macquarie, which is the Local Government Destination Visitor Economy Conference, if you're in the tourism space, and the Outdoor Retailers Exhibition in Melbourne at the end of the month. And don't forget NOAC. So tickets are going quickly now, which is great to see. So if you haven't got your tickets for the National Outdoor Education Conference, it's a great time to jump in while the early bird specials are still available. The full program, as you would have seen on the Connect and Share last week, was announced and is now available on the website. If you're registered, you'll receive some more news on a newsletter that's coming out later today. And yes, we had the Parks and Leisure Australia New South Wales conference this week, but the Australian conference is coming up in September as well, and that's going to be held at Sydney Olympic Park. There you go, there's a reminder on the conference. So if you haven't booked, you can scan that QR code now. It'll take you straight to the website and you can book your tickets. But now I'm going to hand over to the amazing Andrew Bradley, who is going to talk to us about a brand new grant. And I welcome Donna as well. Thanks so much for joining us. And I'll let you share your screen, Andrew, and take us through this exciting initiative, which our outdoor sector can apply for.
Great. Thanks, Laurie. Thank you for that very, very kind introduction. I'll just get my screen happening. Okay, can everyone see my screen now? Yep, great. Okay, everyone. So this morning, as Laurie mentioned, we'll be talking about one of the funds that Donna and I work on, the Stronger Country Communities Fund. And we'll be talking with you this morning about round 4, which is this year's round. So to kick us off, I'll just go through the objectives of round 4 of the fund. So we have 2 main objectives. So the first is to boost the livability of communities in regional areas by providing new or upgraded social and sporting infrastructure or community programs that have strong local support. And the second is the focus of round 4, which is to deliver enhanced infrastructure and programs that remove barriers to female participation in sport across regional New South Wales. At this point, I should mention that when we say female, it's women of all ages, so from children right up to seniors that are included in this program. And when we say sport, it's not, I guess, formal team sports that are just included. It can be any sort of active recreational activity. So in terms of who is eligible for this funding, it is the 93 regional local councils in New South Wales, Lord Howe Island and the unincorporated Far West, joint organisations of councils, incorporated not-for-profit organisations or other organisations that have a public purpose and carry out activities in New South Wales are also eligible. Local Aboriginal land councils are eligible. And all applicants must have an ABN or an ACN or be registered under the Associations Incorporation Act. Joint applications are encouraged where the council is the landowner. And just to, I guess, add a little bit more information about the fund value this round is $100 million. And so there's $50 million of that is earmarked to that objective of removing barriers to female participation in sport in regional New South Wales. So in terms of which projects are eligible, eligibility will be determined by the location. So it needs to be located in an eligible local government area. So that is outside of Greater Metropolitan Sydney, Metropolitan Newcastle and Wollongong. There's a minimum requirement that applicants request at least $50,000 in funding from the scheme. Requests for funding over $1 million need to have a 25% co-contribution from another source. You need to have landowners' consent, and you need to have $20 million public liability insurance in place, or be able to demonstrate a willingness to purchase that level of insurance. And there's a section in our application form that covers that. And finally, the project needs to be for public benefit. So just looking a bit more closely at the female participation in sport objective, again, it's to deliver enhanced infrastructure and programs that remove barriers to female participation in sport across regional New South Wales. We have split this into 4 areas of focus, I guess, to help applicants determine where their project may best sit. But these areas of focus are encouraging engagement, fostering a sense of safety, improving accessibility, and boosting capability. So I know this might be a little bit hard to read on some of your screens. It's taken from our funding guidelines document, but this is a bit more information about the types of projects that you might want to submit under those 4 areas of focus. So for example, under encouraging engagement, it might be new or redesigned programs that are aimed at increasing female participation or engagement with sport, recreational or adventure activities. Under fostering a sense of safety, this might involve improved lighting at sporting facilities and static infrastructure such as playing fields, walking or cycling paths, and change rooms. Under improving accessibility, this could be accommodating female participants of all abilities and ages through new or redesigned programs that incorporate accessibility and inclusion principles. And under boosting capability, this could include an infrastructure project that upgrades meeting rooms to accommodate multiple uses, such as AGMs, training and education programs. The other stream of funding available under round 4 is what we call the general community amenity stream. Now, projects under this stream must be for the construction of new or upgrades to existing local community infrastructure or local sporting infrastructure. Capital works related to street beautification and other public places that promote health, happiness and well-being of the local community. And finally, delivering programs that benefit the local community. So I guess I'd point out here that sports and recreation projects are still eligible for funding under the general community amenities stream. It just doesn't have that focus on female participation in sport. So just this is also taken from our funding guidelines, but this gives you an idea of some examples of projects that would be funded under the general community stream. So it could be, wellbeing programs, it could be festivals, educational programs, workshops to identify accessibility and inclusion needs in the community. In terms of infrastructure, I think for Outdoors New South Wales ACT, surf lifesaving club infrastructure, aquatic facilities and pools, amenities for participants and spectators, playgrounds, parks, shared paths and fixed fitness stations, street and footpath reconfigurations and street lighting. There's a whole bunch of things that may be of interest. So in terms of how applications will be assessed, they're assessed against the 3 following criteria: viability, community support, and alignment with the objectives of the fund. So in terms of viability, that is demonstrating firstly that the project has been fully budgeted, and that would be based on detailed estimates or officiated or official quotes. There's a demonstration that the project team responsible for delivering the project have the necessary expertise in order to complete the project in time. For community support, that would be demonstrating that consultation has been undertaken with the community or the section of the community the project is designed to benefit. And we would expect to see things like letters of support attached to the application to evidence that. And then finally, alignment with the objectives of the fund. So they're the 2 points I discussed at the beginning of the presentation. So there is a section in our application form where applicants are asked to explain how their project aligns with one of those 2 objectives. Okay, so the key dates for the fund, round 4. It opened about 2 weeks ago on the 1st of May. Applications close at noon on Friday, the 25th of June. Assessments will run from late June to late August, and then we're aiming to have announcements of successful projects from September, and then contracting from mid-September this year. We have really detailed FAQs available from the SCCF Round 4 website. So that's the link there, the address there, but I'm happy to share that with you after the meeting. And that website also has our funding guidelines, budget, program, plan, and business case templates, as well as the link to the application form portal. Are there any questions from anyone?
I know I've got a heap, but I might actually ask everyone else first. Anyone got anything that they want to ask of Andrew or Donna on the line? So I might ask a few of mine, Andrew. Just a quick question. If it requires a DA, does the DA have to be already submitted or approved?
So you don't have to have a DA in place or approved, but it is part of the application process. So you will be asked about that, keeping in mind that if you submitted a DA after a project's been announced as successful, it may take several months for that to be approved. So that may impact the timeline of the project and its viability. So just something to keep in mind for our assessors.
Yep. Okay.
Donna, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so you're right, it's not mandatory, but all projects need to commence within 6 months of the funding being announced. So as long as you can meet those timeframes.
Okay, great. And when does it have to be fully expended by?
Within 2 years of executing a funding deed.
Okay, great. Fabulous. And you mentioned the minimum was 50K, Andrew. What's the maximum that you can apply for?
So it depends on the stream or the type of project. I think for business cases, it's up to $200,000. For
no, Andrew, no.
Sorry.
Yep. So this is Stronger Country Communities Fund. So the minimum is $50,000. So it's the same for all projects, whether it's programs or infrastructure. The maximum, every local government area is set a funding allocation. So as a minimum, every local government area receives $750,000. But that is, some LGAs receive more than that, pending the size of their population. And it's also weighted for the remoteness, because more remote communities will have higher building costs. But each council is aware of their funding allocation if there's any community groups that need to be aware of that funding allocation. But minimum size, 50,000.
So what you're saying is there's no maximum, you've just obviously got to take into consideration there's a cap there for your LGA.
That's right. Yep. So don't go too crazy.
Yep, cool. Won't apply for the whole 750 is what you're saying.
Yeah, that would be wise.
Okay, great. Now, obviously, a lot of our guys, and I speak for some that are on the line at the moment, that are businesses that obviously do great things with not-for-profit groups and work with them. Now, understanding from the eligibility, the businesses can't apply because they're a for-profit, but if they worked with the not-for-profit, is that something that you see fitting with the criteria, or if they work with that not-for-profit to apply for it and the project is like a partnership?
Oh, Donna, I might call on you for this one.
So the applicant itself needs to be the not-for-profit itself. So just say they're running a sporting program for female youth. You know, there is nothing stopping them from engaging a private enterprise to deliver that program for them. But in most cases, that program should be free or of minimal charge to attendees to obviously make a public benefit. So you can use the program funding to pay an external provider who would be a commercial business in most cases to deliver that program. That's fine, but the not-for-profit needs to be the applicant.
Yeah, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, certainly does. And I assume that schools would be under the same requirement because schools are not technically eligible.
So the school can't apply, but the P&C can.
Right. Gotcha.
They'll just need landowners' consent from the school or the Department of Education's asset management unit.
Yes, absolutely. We have 2 people on the line at the moment, one from Scouts New South Wales, one's from Scouts Australia. Obviously, this is a key area as we're trying to get more girl guides into the system for outdoor education, etc. There's nothing that would forbid Scouts in applying for this type of...
What's their entity type? Are you an incorporated association?
Jeffrey, did you want to talk to that?
Yeah, I will. You can hear me, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yep.
Good. I'm just changing rooms. There you go. Yes, I can talk to that. We're actually under Royal Charter, so we're definitely not for profit. We're not for profit entities.
They've got their own act.
Yeah, that's fine. So yes, you can apply, no problems there.
Yeah.
Just depends what you want to use the funds for.
Yeah, great. And I mean, congratulations, guys, on identifying this as a need. It's certainly very, in my experience in community sport and active rec, at a council level, change rooms are a big issue as we increasingly get more involvement with different genders. And I can see there's a great need in our sector, particularly to look at that engagement with the women as well. So well done. I think it's a great initiative. I'm really excited to work with some of our guys in applying. So just a message to anyone that is wanting to apply, please reach out for that letter of support. You heard Andrew talk about how they look for letters of support in doing these projects. It shows, one, that the capacity's there, and 2, that you actually have a broader awareness and engagement. And certainly we'll be supporting any of our guys in applying for this fund. So
I'll just reiterate to Laurie that we do have business development managers in every regional location across New South Wales who are able to assist anybody put together an application form. So if you don't know who your business development manager is in your regional area, there's some contact details there. Just give us a call or shoot us an email and we'll be able to refer you. So, this is the type of grant you won't need a grant writer for. You shouldn't need to pay anybody. It's a fairly simple, straightforward application. So we encourage you to get in contact with us if you require additional assistance and support.
Oh, that's great, Donna. Thank you. Is the grant application via Easy Grants? Is that
Smarty Grants?
Smarty Grants, sorry. Yep. I knew it was something like that.
Easy, yes, easy. It is easy, but no, it's Smarty
We
Grants.
wish it was easy. Yeah, that's great. Okay, fabulous. Any other questions from anyone else on this? And I just have one last question. What sort of projects are you hearing that are going to be quite popular in this round?
Change rooms, toilet blocks.
Yep.
Yeah. Lots of sporting related projects so far seems to be the gist that we're getting.
Lighting is always, even in last round, the focus was on regional youth, and I reckon most of the projects were about lighting for sports. So it's always a big one.
Yeah.
But yeah, very early days to tell, I guess, what will come in.
And you mentioned that 50% was put to the women.
It's up to $50 million across the state. So we're quite aware that some local government areas, don't have capacity for female sports. So Lord Howe Island, classic example, they don't have any sports there. So some LGAs won't be able to meet a 50% quota, but some will go for 100%. So we're just looking for an overall target across the state of 50 million.
Great. And that's not up to the local government agency. It's actually up to you guys to...
What do you mean? Yeah,
Yeah, so say for example, Shoalhaven City Council can't say I'm definitely dedicating 50% to.
They can't really, because community groups can apply as well. So the
Yeah.
council doesn't really have control over what gets up essentially.
Yeah,
So
great.
we will look at that when we're doing the assessments.
Fabulous. So I assume by that obviously if you haven't got a project that is around women, but you've got a project that still meets the other criteria,
Still eligible.
don't be shy and not applying for that. Yeah, because there is.
Yeah, it would just go into that general community amenities stream.
Yeah. Yeah, great. And just as a last snapshot, can I ask you, Andrew, to go back to that table you had with all those different things people could apply for, and just reiterate. Yeah, that's perfect. If anyone's
that's the community
interested,
one, and there's female sport one. So there's two.
So
this is the
community one. I'll just take a quick snapshot of that. And
they're all in the guidelines, Laurie. So if you go to page
Right.
8 and 9 of the program guidelines on our application, on our website, they're all there. So that's a direct copy out of our guidelines.
Yeah, as is this one as well. Yeah.
Yeah, great. I just noticed signage there, and that's certainly one that I continually hear is an issue in navigating people. Thank you, guys. Really love having you here today and sharing this with us. And it's probably led into a great next session topic, which you're more than welcome to stay for, which is, okay, what are some hints and tips when you're applying for grants, which I'm going to share with my guys. So thank you for attending. And if there's any other questions, throw it in the chat. But otherwise, let's keep going, and I'll take your screen down and put my screen up, as she says, trying to find it. Okay, there we go. All right, thanks, guys. Okay, so who can I get a thumbs up? Who's applied for a grant in the past? Yep. Quite a few, great. And what I thought I might do is just obviously following on from this is give you a few hints and tips when you're looking at grants, or just in your general planning, because I think the biggest mistake a lot of people make is that they see a grant and they go, oh, what can we pull together to get this fund? I think the easiest way to do anything in this space is to have a wish list and start with, what projects do you want to have in your business, in your activity, in your organisation that you can't afford right now, but is certainly going to add to the value of what you do? So what projects can you have shovel ready? And by that, I mean, it doesn't require too much approval, doesn't require too much administration in DAs and things like that. But what can you act on now? And then you've also got what projects, so that might require some DAs and compliance and partner negotiations. You can have sort of two different streams of lists of wish that you want. That could be anything from infrastructure through to programs, marketing, all of that type of thing. So it's a really good idea to have that wish folder, as I call it, or a wish file in the days of electronic media. And then, what projects are in waiting. It's a really good idea too to file in order of outcome. So as you're thinking about, okay, I want a shelter for that area of the business, what outcomes can that be? Okay, so it's health and well-being of your participants, for example, environment. So, the thing to look at is what's social benefit, what's environment benefit, what's technology or innovation benefit, because there's a lot of grants out there in that space right now, what's economical benefit, and anything that you see, in health and well-being, of course, benefits. So anything you see as the outcomes, have them categorized, because as grants come out, you very quickly see what they're trying to achieve or what issue they're trying to address. So that's tip number one. Make sure you've got your list of shovel ready, project ready types of wishes that you want for your business. The other thing you've got to do is have your partners ready. Now, you heard from Andrew that there's a big push to have letters of support. showing that extension of support across your community or your area of expertise. So having letters of support that are ready to go, and it could be that you're talking to us and saying, look, can I just have a blanket letter of support that says that, you know, what we're doing, and then that way when it comes to the point where you've got something you want to apply for, you can flick it back and I can add a paragraph in there that's specific to the project, and you can submit it straight away. So having your partners aligned to support these projects that you've got in your wish folder saves a hell of a lot of time when it comes to these grants. And I have to tell you, you probably noticed there's more and more grants coming out now with obviously epidemic recovery and bushfires and all that type of thing, which means the timelines have started to also shrink. So you've got less and less time to be able to apply for this. And I don't know whether everyone knows, but there's billions of dollars out there in grant funds right now. So, you know, you've got to have a look at what could be relevant for you and achieving some of your outcomes. So next tip, criteria first. Okay, what you've got to do is look at the grant provider. What are they trying to achieve, number one? So if you look at today's example for one of the examples, it's about regional. It's about regional communities, and it's about providing infrastructure that people cannot normally afford. And obviously it has the women element as well. So if you've got anything that ticks those boxes, then you should be looking at this grant. So the criteria is number one. Go straight to the criteria of the grant. And if you cannot meet the criteria, obviously don't bother applying. It's time wasting. So for example, if you're a business, you can't apply directly for this one. But what you can do is if you have a partnership with a not-for-profit, as we've discussed, they comply. The criteria says that not-for-profits can apply. So then use that to work through this particular grant. But criteria is essential, because if you don't meet it, basically they scrub it out and it doesn't go any further. So that's the first thing that normal grant providers do, is look for that first. Remember that your submission is your only opportunity here. So they don't know anything about what you do. They don't know how wonderful you are. They don't know a lot of your acronyms. They don't understand our industry. So what you've got to try to do is encapsulate everything that you would ordinarily know that someone else doesn't into this submission. So I'm not saying write War and Peace. What I'm saying to you is get someone that you may know that has nothing really to do with what you do as a business or an activity, and get them to read it and see if it makes sense, and get them to ask you questions through it. And the questions they ask you, you should be trying to address in a very succinct form. Because if they've got those questions, chances are the grant provider will have the same questions. So make sure you've got that submission as your opportunity to capture them and get them intrigued into what you do and see this as something that needs to be funded. Okay, so again, it's your only opportunity. You haven't got the opportunity to go and do an interview or a presentation or submit lots and lots of photos and videos about your past experience. It's your only opportunity. Back up everything you say with justification. So say, for example, you're saying there is a lack of women's amenity in the area. Prove it. Say we have 6 different facilities for the men, we have none for the women, or we have X amount of whatever and da-da-da. It's so important that you prove your statements with research data, and it could be just data you get visually that you understand what's out there, but you have to back up your claims, because if you can't back it up, chances are they're not going to tick that criteria off, because they're not seeing that you understand the lay of the land in that area. So research and proof is very essential. And as we said, address the criteria in that area. So where the research and the data counts is in those criteria dot points. And get it in early. I hear time and time again, they've done all this work and they're trying to pull it all together in the last minute, and their internet goes down or something fails and they cannot get it by the 5 o'clock deadline or the 501 deadline. All of these Smarty Grant forms and systems that are in place today are automated. So the actual site closes at those times. You know, back in the day, we'd be able to ring and say, oh, I've lost my internet, can I submit it? And they'd go, yeah, sure, email through. You can't do that anymore. It is all on a platform. It's all assessed on a platform. So make sure you time it to get it in at least 24 hours prior, and then you're alleviating any of those issues. Or if you do have issues 24 hours prior, you've got some backup time to be able to get that in. And make sure you have all of your attachments that are required as part of the criteria added to that grant application. Normally they're pretty good with reminding you on what's essential, but yeah, it's definitely a really key thing to check that criteria and make sure you've got that all locked in. So what I thought I might do is just go through a simple template for you with your wish list. So if you're thinking about the projects that you want to add to your business right now, there is literally 6 things that you've got to put onto that spreadsheet, that document. First is the problem or the issue that you're trying to solve, because that is then obviously tied into the needs that are addressed in a grant. So if you say, I can't get shelter in this area for this school group, then the need is looking at the health and safety of the kids. The second column is the solution. So your solution is, I want a brand new shelter in this spot and I want to build it in whatever material. The third thing is your activity timeline. So how long does it take for you for approvals, purchasing, putting it up, and assessing the outcome? Those 4 steps are pretty much consistent with most activities. So then just document how long you need between, because that will then give you a time frame that if a grant says, okay, it has to be spent within 12 months, you go, is that achievable? Or maybe not. And then you look at another grant opportunity if it's not. Okay, so activity and timeline is very crucial. As Andrew and Donna said this morning, this one is a 2-year time frame. So if you're looking at building, you know, a lot more accommodation facilities or something like that, that might actually extend out beyond that time frame, depending on the scale of your project. So you have to consider that timeline. So that's your 3 columns. Your 4th column is your cost breakdown. So what are the elements that are going to cost money? At the end of the day, that's what we're applying for, is the funds to be able to do this project. So that 4th column is all about your cost. Your 5th column is your partners and supporters. Who can you get on board to say this is a great project and we believe in that outcome as well? It might be a co-funder. It might be someone providing in kind. Or it could be just someone that's a neighbour or someone like us saying this is a great thing for this activity and for the outcome that you're trying to achieve. List those partners there. So as soon as you know that you've got the opportunity to apply for this grant, ring them and get those letters of support in. And then the final column, which is the most important when it comes to the criteria, is what are your outcomes that are going to be achieved from this project? So health, shelter from the kids, sunspots, all of that type of stuff. List all the outcomes that you're going to get from that particular project. If there's any questions, please feel free to jump in. But what I just thought I'd share with you, if you can see this, is the Busy Grants newsletter. Now, if you are interested in obtaining more funds to do more with your business or your activity, our community is actually a really great tool, ourcommunity.com.au. And the Busy Grants newsletter is grants that are available just for Australian businesses. Now, to give you an idea, and I won't go through for copyright reasons, but if you just look down this column, that's how many grants are available at the moment. So there are hundreds of grants that are available for businesses today in various areas, various outcomes, children, family, commerce, community services, that are available for applications today. So if that doesn't warm your heart to say there is money out there and money that we know can go to a great activity and a great outcome for community, then nothing will. So if you're not applying for grants now, I strongly urge you to have a look and get into the grant industry. So any questions, comments, anything at all? I've stunned you all, or you're all asleep. That was a very quick snapshot of a one-day session on applying for grants. So,
Quick question.
yeah.
That busy grants, I just had a quick look. Obviously, there's a cost involved. That's fine. But for, obviously, I'm guessing that you've got Outdoors New South Wales ACT
Yes.
thing against that,
Sure.
so that
Absolutely.
so that anything that could be relevant in the sector, you would share at some point.
Pretty much. I mean, I have actually put in some in the monthly, weekly newsletters that I put.
Yep.
There'll be a couple that are very specific to us, and I'll put them in. Some and the great skill of any grant writer is making it. What's the word? It is being recorded, so I've got to be careful with my words. Flexible in the outcomes that you can make the project become. So trying to ensure that you're meeting the criteria, but you're still focused on really what you want to achieve in the business or the activity. So yeah, it can be between one business to another very different, but yes, Jeff, I would definitely be putting in ones that are very relevant to the sector in that. The business ones, as I say, a little bit more harder because they're so specific. But yeah, so if anyone is really interested in that, I do encourage, and this is no promotional, I'm not paid advertising from our community, but it is a great organisation. They have some great tools in applying for grants as well, fact sheets and things like that, if you've got time to wade through them. But yes, we do carry a subscription to make sure we're on top of some of the bigger opportunities. Anything else from anyone? And it doesn't have to be grant related, even though we've been talking grants today. And there's crickets. Okay. Well, on that note, we might stop the recording, and if anyone wants to hang around for a chat, we've got a good 7 minutes to catch up on where everyone's up to.